What's up? Welcome to this week's edition of Invisible Walls. I'm not going to say that today is Thursday because it may not actually be Thursday. Nonetheless, on a Thursday or Friday edition of the show, we have an awesome crew here and a big announcement for you guys. From here forward, Grumpy McGrump will be a permanent part of this show. How do you feel about that, Grump?
Well, I feel good. Justin looks ecstatic, though. Seriously, I've never seen him look so happy in his life.
I'll try to contain myself.
What's he doing to his wrists? Okay.
So not only will he be a permanent fixture on the show, he will be sitting in throughout the whole show. So he'll be here every week to give us his unwavering insight into the industry. So welcome, Grumpy, and happy to have you.
Thank you, darling.
Let's move on. So as you guys know, we have Grumpy on the show today.
Hello, I'm Grumpy.
But he's not really today. You're actually kind of cordial today.
Just wait.
Michael Damiani sitting in today.
Hey, everyone.
And in fact, we got a huge crew today. Oh, Ryan, I guess you're not sitting in today. You're just like hanging out.
I'm just watching.
Okay. So we don't have Ryan, but we do have Patrick Morales.
What's up? The next best thing, I hope.
And Justin Spear sitting in today, as Grumpy already pointed out.
Keep up the good work, Spectre. Eliminate all remaining Grims in the area.
All right, first we're going to talk about Resistance 2. They had an event for this game not too long ago, and Justin was our man in attendance. So what were some of the cool things that they showed off for the first time?
Well, they pretty much showed all the modes for the game. They had a couple of new single-player modes. One was a first level, one was kind of a later level, and kind of a giant redwood forest with, people camping that had been, killed by aliens. And they did show the co-op looks a lot like...
Now here's the big question. Obviously they've been talking this whole time about how it's not exactly the single player. It's been revamped to work with all the... Is it better or worse than if they were just to let that many people play through the single player campaign?
For the co-op campaign, too?
Yeah.
Well, the co-op campaigns they have kind of separate, self-contained mini story arcs or something. So, you have a number of objectives and you just kind of go through them. And it's kind of, you can play them in any order, from what I understand, unless I totally misheard something. So it's not quite a campaign, but it still has some kind of story element, and you make progression, and then you fulfill some kind of ultimate objective. But it's really kind of its own mode. But
do you enjoy it?
Cool. Well, it looks really cool. I mean, you have a lot of people in there. 8 people co-op. It's pretty awesome.
Were there enough enemies to keep everybody satisfied?
Well, they have.
Or were you guys like fighting over who gets to kill?
They've kind of addressed that. They talked about it. They wanted to avoid they call it a ball of death, where everyone just clumps up and then something pops up and everyone shoots it. So they actually have kind of separate objectives, and they try to direct people that way.
So you split off from the main group and say 2 of you got to do one thing, 3 of you got to do another.
Yeah, I think they'll have like multiple squads, and then they'll have you kind of sort it out amongst yourselves, or each squad will have an objective to take on. But
Do they have scalable enemies with regards to, say, there's only 4 of you playing co-op? Do they have, are you going to have less enemies than if you have 8 players?
I'm sure they have some kind of. They didn't talk about it, but they've got to have some kind of dynamic adjustment thing in there. It's pretty normal these days.
What about the single-player campaign? Did you get to play it?
Yeah, it was pretty limited what we got to play for single player, but they showed some stuff. They talked about they have an increase in gore. So basically, I didn't see that too much, other than there's more dead bodies. They're like ripped apart in 3 pieces. There's one point where an invisible enemy like picks a dude up and like rips him in half, and it kind of rainbows in the air with
The
gore.
blood mist rainbows in the air?
Well, it's.
Or you just
like
mean it?
sploosh. It's a rainbow shape.
I thought you're like standing at the bottom of like a waterfall and the mist comes up and it creates a rainbow. I thought that's what you were talking about.
Well, they do have some cool lighting effects. The game looks good.
And Patrick, what were you going to say? Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no problem. Going back to co-op, in this one, there are character classes that you can pick from the 8.
Oh, yeah, they do have kind of
co-op,
like, there's a tank class.
Right. Like, based on what you've seen or played, did it seem like people could easily fit into specific group roles, or was it all pretty much just, bombarding the level with, whatever weapon you choose?
I think they balance it to where, it's the class-based play is like in the mix.
But it doesn't completely hinge on it.
I don't think it completely hinges on it, but they said it definitely supports different people playing different classes and kind of helping each other out and, covering weaknesses. But
Now, Justin, you don't sound too excited about the game, but it isn't in your nature to not be too excited about anything. So.
I get excited about a select few things, but
This isn't one of them.
The multiplayer, the multiplayer. Well, I guess one interesting thing they have is kind of their take on perks. I guess it's called Berserk. So they have stuff like a shield you can deploy that's kind of looks a little bit like the Halo shield, or like an invisibility.
But they had that in the last game, the shield.
They did have that, but this is like you can pick which ones you want and kind of combine it with a class. So if you want like a super defensive build, you can get a guy, and there's a health regen power. You kind of turn it on, and it makes a little, area of healing that your homies can get in. Then your other homies get in there, and they put up their shield perk, and then you take control of the point or whatever.
What about new weapons? They show anything cool?
They have one. I think it's called the Splicer, which sounds like a term from 6 different games. Basically, it's kind of like a buzzsaw launcher. It launches saw blades and secondary fires. You can just kind of rip into people. So it fulfills their, Gears chainsaw, Dead Space saw launcher kind of, big gory physical damage.
So your hype meter after having gone to this event, higher or lower than it was before?
I guess it's about even. I am honestly kind of excited about the game's co-op. I mean, and multiplayer. There's 60-person multiplayer and 8-person co-op. Those are really big numbers, and it seems like they're addressing it in a smart way, breaking things into squads and making sure that everyone has something to do. So, yeah, I mean, I'm as psyched about it as I would be about another big first-person shooter.
Well, we should be seeing more of that game in the near future. It's not too long till it's out, so we'll check back with you then.
We have a breach point at the east wing. Damn it! Hale, find some cover. We got heavy incoming.
All right, next up we're going to talk about the reimagining of a classic style of game in Mega Man 9. I see lots of looks from the table here. What do you think? Michael, you reviewed it for the site. I think people today can handle games like that, or are we also weak sauce?
Oh, I think a lot of people are going to be exposed for being weak sauce after playing Mega Man 9. That game is a game of lots of cheap deaths, definitely. I think the biggest thing people need to realize before trying to play this game is that it's in the style of the first 2 Mega Mans. It doesn't try, even though it's 9, and it continues the story from 8, the gameplay actually doesn't progress from 8. A lot of the gameplay elements have been cut out, so it's more of like a classic retro NES style game. It's very difficult, and I think that a lot of people who weren't exposed to this type of game, they need to try and play this game to see what real gaming was back then.
Why couldn't they just go get Mega Man for $1 at the used game store?
I was actually, today they announced...
Or all of them for $10.
They just recently announced what all the full downloadable content was going to be. And I would have suggested this game definitely to buy until I heard what the bullshit was of the downloadable content. That you can get Proto Man, which unlocks some new types of gameplay. You can slide, you can charge up the shot, which is more modern style gameplay. But you got to pay for harder modes. You want to pay for hard or difficult, you pay $1 more. You want to pay for an endless stage, pay $3 more. It's a little misleading with the price hike. I would argue, as you were saying earlier, I would tell someone to go on Virtual Console and download Mega Man 2 for $5, and it's just as great of a game, and it's complete. You're paying for an incomplete game almost, and you're spending twice as much to get all the content for it. And that really pisses me off. And it seems to be pissing off a lot of people who are starting to play it now.
Well, the pricing is definitely bullcrap, but who really wants to play that game on hard mode?
They explained it. The super hard mode is just a lot of more enemies on screen. And this game does have parts where there's quite a decent amount of enemies on screen. And it does have a little bit better of AI, but I can't just imagine them throwing 20
AI meaning they have 2 different patterns?
Yeah.
There was no such thing as AI back when those games were made.
The example was there's an enemy that
you would shoot, jump, shoot. That was AI.
This time they do change it up just a little bit. So if you encounter an enemy that you've seen before, it does something just a little bit different, just to throw a curveball at people who are used to it. Compare the value of that experience to something like Bionic Commando Rearmed. That game was phenomenal. And it's a revamp, and I think even though this game showed me to appreciate classic gaming, I think I would have preferred a revamped Mega Man game, something with the whole revamped package going there. That would have been worth more for the value.
I mean, I actually enjoyed it. I liked going back and playing a game like that. I wouldn't do it again for another 4 years.
Let's face it, nostalgia is a great thing until we actually go back and experience it. People go to Ren Fest thinking, oh, it's great to be, a knight and all this sort of shit. They forget about the cholera and the fact that there's no dental and no internet and all that sort of crap. We go back
internet.
200 million years or whatever it is, the first Mega Man game. And I actually, I spent this afternoon playing it, doing some research. I know you're impressed.
We're surprised.
Seriously, it brought back, the only thing it brought back was how much I friggin' hated the game the first time around.
Yeah.
I mean, in this day and age, I love Bionic Commando Rearmed. I really did. Where's my little nuances, nods, if you will, to the fact that gameplay has progressed beyond what the original Mega Man series was all about? The game could be great. The game needs to be reimagined and needs to be pushed forward.
Well, I think the ironic thing here is that these games really, they're not skill-based. They're memorization-based. Like, it's really not whether you're good or bad with a D-pad and a button. It's about remembering if that guy's going to shoot before he jumps, if there's enough room on the platform to get on that platform with him. To me, that's really the challenge in the old school game. It's not technically being good at jumping. It's learning what the game is going to do, learning to expect it, and then working within those parameters.
I think that still falls under skill, technically, though.
That's not skill.
Memorization?
That's not skill. That's memory. Look, it's
reflex,
it's Dance Revolution.
reflex, memorization. You have to combine.
But it's not really the jumping that's the hard part. It's knowing whether you can jump or should jump.
But
there's some
for
hard
timing
jumps in
and
Mega
stuff,
Man 9.
and I think it still falls under skill.
I don't know.
so-
I mean, hard was playing Pitfall on the Atari 2600, where you had to jump on the alligator's head, and it was like literally 1 pixel wide, or you died to the alligator. That's skill.
And it doesn't give you any room to explore either. I mean, everything is in a set pattern, everything is repeating, and there's no chance to innovate and take out bad guys in a slightly different way. And let's face it, that's what games nowadays are all about. Games have evolved, and Mega Man 9 could have been great, could have been evolved, could have been rearmed, whatever you want to call it. And I think they dropped the ball, and it's a shame because Bionic Commando, set the bar as far as I'm concerned. This is a pile of stinking poop.
It does do what it was meant to do, which was give you what the original Mega Man experience was what to be. Whether or not some people think it's good or not, in that regard, I think it succeeds very well. But
Would you have rather seen a Mega Man game for the 360 or the PS3 that they had spent 3 years developing?
I'd rather have seen that. I think the mistake is they labeled it Mega Man 9. You think it's a new one in the series, and it's taking a step backwards in a lot of regards, which is a disappointment.
Yeah. With 9, I was actually half expecting it to be kind of like a bridge to the X series, which would have been personally cool for me because I really enjoyed it.
Storyline-wise?
Yeah, storyline-wise, and even gameplay-wise.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, they could have incorporated
Maybe
some
you
of the
can
X
unlock
stuff.
Zero for another $5 down the line.
Right, or have at least a charge shot or a dash and not have to pay $2 to get Proto Man just to do those things. As a game, I think it'll still cater to a lot of people, that love the old school games. It may not be as solid of a remake, quote, as Bionic Commando Rearmed, but I think it still, definitely has an audience.
Those type of games need it, but then it's very niche. It doesn't have the widespread appeal.
Well, I guess to sum it up, really, it is what it is. No surprises. I think people, if they know Mega Man, they're going to boot it up. They're going to be like, I'm getting exactly what I expected. If anyone expects any more, they're going to be disappointed. All right, next up we have Grumpy McGrump and the Gaming Life. Now, just because he's on the show every time, all the time, it doesn't mean we're not going to give him his own little platform or soapbox to rant from. So this is his first shot as a full-on member of the IW crew. What you got for us today?
I actually used my Game Trailers privileges to hack into your mailbox, and I pulled out a couple of mails that Uncle Grumpy will answer. And build into the rant. MM Tech and Blaze Tech actually sent in some PC related questions. One, do you believe that piracy has killed PC gaming, or at least the idea of PC exclusives? And the Blaze Tech question was, do you think the Gamers' Bill of Rights will be put into effect on all PC games so that we don't have the same problems we have with Spore and the DRM? Which is my main point today.
Is
Spore
that
DRM.
really a problem, though? I mean,
What, the Spore DRM?
how many times do you have to install friggin' Spore?
All right, so let me see.
Don't tread on me.
You know what?
I paid for that.
Seriously, if you're paying $50, I mean, at the end of the day, it's going down to almost like a rental agreement. You're not getting to pay and own the game anymore. You're friggin' renting it. I mean, if I've got an Xbox 360 game, I can take my Xbox 360 game to my friends, assuming I have them, and drop it in there, and we can get on, we can play. Great, no
Save
problem.
files might be a
Who's
problem.
going to do that with Spore, though?
Well,
you don't
yeah.
drop over to your friend's house and install a game
All
on his hard drive.
Spore is a game, sort of like family-oriented game. Let's face it, they dumbed down the gameplay to attract the casual players. Their words, not mine. And so the casual players, mom, dad, 2 kids. It's guaranteed they're not all going to be playing on one PC. I mean, the kids are going to have PC in their room because dad doesn't want them messing with his PC. Mom will probably have a notebook or something, a laptop or something. So
Because dad has porn on his PC.
Exactly. Where do you think he wants to keep his multi-penis tentacle monster? But so for example, 4 PCs in a house. 1 copy of Spore, that's 4 installs. That's 1 more than you were originally allowed. And obviously, we've had the breaking news where they've upped it to 5. Oh, thank you, EA, for letting me
Do you
install
really think
it.
that's going to happen, though? How many families are all going to want to install Spore and play Spore?
It's a different market now. I mean, it's a different era. I mean, it's different to when we were all growing up. I mean, more kids have laptops. They're hitting laptops into high school system, into schools, into colleges.
I think the chances of somebody, or there being a family where there are 4 different people in that family that want to play it, I think that's feasible. Them all having their own separate PCs and all wanting to install it on a separate PC, I think is pretty unlikely.
You have kids?
Are they rich or something?
No, not yet.
It's going to be more pervasive in like college dorms and high schools, where one kid's going to buy in his dorm, he's going to go
And the
pass
whole
around to
hall
the
gets
whole
it.
hall is going to have
40
a copy of
40
Spore. That's
people.
what they're going to do, like they did with
To
Camp
me,
Spore.
I just think it's just people who copy games just crying sour grapes.
You know what? Let me give you an example.
I can't remember any PC game I've ever installed more than 4 times, ever, in my whole life.
More than 4 times. That means you would have used
Or
up
even
all
4
plus
times.
1. All right. Let me go through some of the games that I've installed multiple times. BioShock. Let's go through
How many
Dungeon
times?
Keeper.
Twice?
BioShock 3 times. Dungeon Keeper and Dungeon Keeper 2 about 12 times all told.
Why?
Because I've upgraded my systems or I've bought new machines. I mean, I've got a kick-ass gaming laptop. I've got a PC rig that was custom built, and I'm actually going to have to update it again and put Vista on it. So
Well, I think
that's
persistent games where you pay a monthly fee, I don't think any of those games will ever go the route.
all those games that are not persistent world. They don't have the limitations on them for multiple installs. I mean, the amount of times, especially if you lots of games, or in your case, lots of porn on your PC, it takes up space, and you have to worry. Do I take out this game right now, save the small save games file, and reinstall later, or do I delete my porn? And I know, we're very similar on this. The game goes. So I guess I don't see the problem in allowing people to install on multiple PCs, and then you attach the one key code to it. And seriously, if it wasn't an issue for a lot of people wouldn't have complained. Which,
Well, I think it was the BitTorrent people that were complaining because they were going to have to pay for the game. I mean,
Well, let's face it. The people who went and pirated on BitTorrent, who are all assholes as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I
don't know. I'm not a huge PC gamer. I do enjoy the occasional PC game, and as a quote-unquote outsider looking in, it just looks to me like pirates are screaming sour grapes.
I mean, yeah, I think piracy is killing PC gaming. It's really having a problem. There are some great games coming out, but when you go and you find out that your replication house, as Ubisoft just did with Assassin's Creed, that their replication house, somebody lifted a disc and walked out the door and put it online 3 weeks beforehand and was downloaded 100,000 times.
Well, I think we all knew that was going on, right?
we've all
They're
known-
pretty silly to not think that wasn't the case the whole time.
we've all known that's going on, but hopefully, my suggestion is move to online gaming for downloadable games. Period. Cut retail out of it. No disc replication. More money going back into developers' pockets, less overheads. Perhaps the price of games will come down a little.
Well, I think something interesting I'd seen is what GameStop says they don't believe that digital delivery will become a threat until 20.
Gee, I wonder
2020?
why. Because once that happens, their
2029,
business
something
is
like that. In
done.
the dark techno future, to
Done.
wonder how long it'll take. I mean, stuff like that moves slow. Companies move slow. The
Oh, the
system moves
GameStop
slow.
saying that is total garbage, though.
I know that's
because
total
their
garbage.
business is over when that day
I don't
comes.
expect to wait 20 years for it to happen, but I mean, I don't think it's something you can snap your fingers and say, okay, distribution models change. There
I
you
think
go.
within 10 years,
Problem
I think
solved.
you could count on hard disks being gone.
I think the big difference is that, 10 years' time, the next generation of consoles, that's when the big switch will happen. PC will be forging the way and testing the market, but when it moves to the next iteration of consoles and they're going to come with huge hard drives, that's when GameStop and the other guys can start shitting themselves and end up going to work at Starbucks.
If PC gaming is still alive, but
If.
can it hang in there for 10 years?
Well, there's a couple of good games, and actually, I had a discussion with Ryan earlier. We talked about goodoldgames.com, GOG.com, where they're actually doing all the old school stuff, and you can buy games for like $5-6, no DRM. So anyway, the other question was the Gamer's Bill of Rights that the Stardock guys came out with a couple of weeks ago, which was, you shouldn't be treated as a criminal, hence DRM.
Where's the part that says you shouldn't be a criminal?
Well, this is it. I think the Gamer's Bill of Rights is a nice idea and concept. It would be fantastic. I mean, it's PC Gamer's Bill of Rights, but is it going to be implemented by anybody except Stardock? No.
No. All right, next up is On the Hook, where we answer all your questions, or at least a small portion of your questions.
All right, so this one's from Dragon Chi 26, very oriental. Sony's platform is best known for RPGs with tons of PS1 and PS2. However, I've yet to see any promise for any RPGs at all for the PS3. Is there a PS3 RPG drought? I would say at the moment, yeah. I mean, we saw some early ones, like Folklore, but they didn't make a huge impact. And Microsoft definitely led the charge with JRPGs this generation so far, with like the Mistwalker stuff, Blue Dragon, Lost Odyssey.
And the irony there is just insane.
It's incredibly ironic.
Why?
Microsoft are trying to sell Xboxes in Japan.
Yeah, but why would they sign on when they know the box isn't going to sell?
Yeah, it is kind of weird.
I mean, imagine if Mistwalker had signed up with PlayStation or whatever. I mean, I think that system would be doing a lot better in Japan now, and they probably would have sold double the copies that they sold right now of those games.
Oh, definitely. And even outside of Mistwalker, you have stuff like Tales of Vesperia, you have Eternal Sonata, and the PS3 doesn't really have any RPGs for now. But if you look at TGS, we were gonna get Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy 13, Versus.
I mean, PS3 owners are getting Eternal Sonata next month.
Oh, that's right.
After
they're
a
getting
year.
Yeah, a year later.
That seems to be.
And that seems to be how it goes.
Yeah.
It's like it's released on the 360, and then 6 months, a year later, then finally it's
that was
released.
Namco Bandai, so now we're counting down the days till Vesperia comes out next year, probably. Right. And you got Star Ocean 4. That's been a staple on Sony. I mean, they've just dropped the ball there.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
They let all those games get away.
Isn't that just part of the course, though?
At this point, it is, yeah. I mean, Sony hasn't really wrapped up any third-party exclusives this gen at all. And I know it's more difficult than it was last generation, but, man, you got to try at least. Think about how many RPGs have been released for the PS2 since the PlayStation 3 came out, and good ones.
I still have a backlog. That's what I'm playing on my PS3 still right now, are the PS2 RPGs I never got a chance to go on and finish.
Yep, and still going strong kind of today. There's still a Persona 4 to come out here.
Yeah.
So it's still chugging along.
For my PS3, I got no RPGs to play.
Well, the good news, you could use backwards compatibility.
Right.
And use all the PS2 RPGs.
The bad news is that there are like 400 million PS2s out there people can play those games on.
Yeah.
All right, so next, Justin, we have a question about game prices.
Yeah, it's Chuck Norris 7777. He asks, do you think games that are as epic as the Mass Effects, Bioshocks, Resistance 2s should fall under a higher price bracket than $59.99? I'd pay $70 or even $80 as long as I knew I was getting quality and not a cookie cutter game.
All right, that's not Chuck Norris. That is John Riccatello, who's the head of Electronic Arts, okay? If not, it's Peter Moore, it's, Reggie at Nintendo. Somebody has basically created a Game Trailers account and has asked that question. Because, I mean,
maybe even 90 if the game was good enough.
Oh, yeah, seriously. I mean, let's go back to the days of paying $120 for a grey import cart from Nintendo, shall we? Like I know people used to do on the Super NES. Justin, what do you think about it?
I paid $100 for Ogre Battle on the SNES. It's out of print, extremely hard to find.
Not even just that.
Worth every penny.
Yeah, but for the Bioshocks and Mass Effects, I don't know. Maybe 86, man.
I think this is just a stupid question. I mean, let's face it, the game shouldn't really go higher than $59.99 for the epic games because they're all going to sell. I think the bigger issue should be that the other games should start to step up to that level to give us more choice. We should stop having less crap coming through, especially on the Wii, because there is a lot of on the Wii right now, and
just like the PS2 last gen, the most popular is always a dumping ground for that stuff. But I kind of disagree. I mean, if you think back, like we've been paying the same amount of money for video games forever. The Atari 2600 games were $50 to $60. Like every generation, that price has never gone up. If you look at everything else in our lives, right now a gallon of milk in Hawaii is like $13. Like everything goes up except for video games. Why is that? Is that fair to our industry and the people that make those games that they have been doomed to not adjust with the cost of living. And
I think the bigger difference is look at how many games consoles were sold 10, 15 years ago and how many games consoles are sold now. Right. How many, you made the point about how many PS2s there are out there right now, how many PS3s are there, how many Wii's, how many 360s. So therefore there are exponentially more consoles and more PCs, and therefore more, a much larger audience. I mean, gaming has gone mainstream, so there's a bigger audience, which means you don't have to have a higher profit margin. You just sell more, and people will sell more. And it's just a shame that a lot of the more that's being sold is
I think the real issue with this question is the last sentence where he says, I would pay this money as long as I knew I was getting a quality product. Well, how do you know you're getting a quality? We can tell you a game is a quality product, and there'll still be 10,000 people in our comments telling us that we're insane.
I mean, all right, let's GTA, Metal Gear Solid, I think $60 for those. I mean, and if you want to pay the 80 or 90, you know that there are special edition versions of the game out there. That's what you go and buy. I think, especially given the climate right now and the economical climate, the gaming industry would go absolutely tits up if people start charging all this money. I mean, it would be interesting to see if there's a backlash on Mega Man 9 because of all the nickel and diming.
The other thing I find interesting is that they list it as $59.99. I know we're just talking about these games here, but I've always found it interesting how the high-quality Wii games are only $49.99, but every 360 PS3 games are $59. There's like this HD premium put on their games.
Well, I mean, truth be told, if you're making a game for HD flat panels, I mean, you are going to spend more time and money in creating that game. I mean, you have to create high-res assets. You have to make sure your stuff looks up to scratch because people are going to see it exactly as you created it.
Would you pay $59.99 for a game like Mario Galaxy, though? Because he was talking about quality here.
If they put out Mario Galaxy and the only way I could get it was to pay $60, I would pay $60 for it. But maybe that's just me. And I know, granted, everyone who's listening to this right now hates me. Because they're like, I can't believe Shane's saying that they should make the prices more expensive.
That's because you have a friggin' job.
I heard he said that first.
What I'm saying is that we've been really, really lucky to be in a hobby where the cost of that hobby has not gone up in my entire lifetime.
I do have a suggestion for the guy since he seems to want to spend more money on games.
Buy
2 copies and give one to someone as a gift. Especially if it's a game that you think is really good and other people haven't heard of. Just, if you want these people to do good, then buy their game and then give someone a copy.
Watch this video and learn from it.
Why are we doing this, guys?
I think there was a really awesome Red Alert 3 trailer.
Yeah, there was one awesome piece of media that we all like so much that we just wanted to dig it up so we could talk about it.
It's a universal media of the week.
It is.
What is the actual name of this trailer?
I think it's something like star-studded techno remix sizzle cut down. Has a lot of famous people in it, though.
Yeah, it's sweeping the nation.
It's the next new dance craze.
This trailer is really awesome, though. I mean, it's basically all the stars from the live-action segments from Red Alert 3, and they just grab little vocal samples from them and mix them into this obnoxious, breakbeat metal track. Very creative. I don't think I've ever seen a piece of media for a game like that. Duke Nukem trailer.
It's not quite as epic as Duke Nukem. Yeah. Then they got Sulu to say all your base are belong to us, which is, after a while, it's kind of funny.
Jenny McCarthy song.
I gotta say, Jenny McCarthy's holding up pretty well.
Oh, I've got something she could hold up.
For her age, she's probably, pushing 40, maybe a little older?
You know what? Just because somebody's hitting 40 doesn't make them, ready for the frigging grave, young Slatterfield.
No, but it usually means that their boobs are hanging down to their belt line.
Yeah, but that's why she's dating Jim Carrey, and therefore he's got enough money to keep those things nice and tight.
Does she really date Jim Carrey?
Yeah. They've been, together for a year. I'm going to masturbate.
And who was the other girl? Natasha or something it looked like.
No, there's 3, I think. One is the MMA chick.
Or is it the girl from American Gladiators? That's who it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's another girl, some TV, whatever, but yep, pretty girls.
And the dude from Oz that raped everybody.
Oh. Was that Sulu?
The bald-headed dude, the racist guy from Oz. It's once he's been in that show now, I can't accept him as any other character but the racist that raped people.
And it's got Tim Curry, who was Frankenfurter in the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, that's right.
From Stilettos to Red Alert.
That's right. Anyway, if you haven't seen the trailer, it's awesome if you can't tell by now. Check it out. Definitely recommend it. And that is the purpose of that segment, to turn you guys on to stuff that you may have missed.
The only thing I can say about that is, oh, snap.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Grumpy, welcome to the squad. I think you made a good showing for yourself today.
Thank you. Can I put my pants back on now, please?
You sure can. And thanks to you guys for watching. Please be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes. Leave any feedback, whether positive or negative, and any questions sent to invisiblewalls@gametrailers.com. We'll see y'all next week, but not necessarily on Thursday.
Although possibly on Thursday.
Maybe.